Are you sure you are loving your cat in a way that actually feels good to your cat? A lot of people believe that if they give their cat good food, buy nice toys, and show care every day, that should be enough to make them happy. But the truth is, some of the most common and unconscious things we do, even the ones that come from love, may be making our cats feel pressured, drained, and slowly more withdrawn. The saddest part is that most owners do not realize it, because cats rarely react in ways people expect. They do not always fight back, cry out, or make a scene. Sometimes they simply step away a little more often. They avoid your touch a little sooner. They grow quieter than they used to be. In this video, you will discover 6 common ways people unintentionally hurt their cats, and why these small, everyday habits can quietly change how a cat feels about their home and the person they trust most. We are going to look at 6 very common habits many cat owners have, from the way you touch your cat, to the way you respond to their behavior, to the way you shape daily life around them. And in each part, the goal is not simply to make you feel guilty or tell you that you have been doing everything wrong. The real goal is to help you understand what your cat may be feeling in those moments, so you can respond with more softness, more respect, and a deeper kind of love. First, forcing affection when your cat does not want it. This is one of the most common mistakes people make, especially when they genuinely adore their cats. You see your cat walking by, and you pick them up right away. You hold them close because it feels loving to you. You keep petting them because you want the moment to last. But your cat starts turning their head away. Their ears shift. Their tail begins to move with tension. Their body stiffens, even if only slightly. And that is the moment many people miss. Humans often think closeness automatically means love. But for cats, affection only feels safe when they still have a choice. If they cannot step away, if they cannot end the interaction on their own, what feels warm and tender to you can start to feel overwhelming to them. That is why some cats seem affectionate one minute and distant the next. It is not always because they are moody. Sometimes it is because the interaction lasted just a little too long. Sometimes it is because they gave 3 or 4 small signals that said, "I am done now," and no one noticed. For many cats, comfort does not come from being held tighter. It comes from knowing they are free to leave and still be loved. That freedom matters more than many people realize. It is part of what makes a cat feel respected, not just cared for. And this is where so many loving owners misunderstand their cats. They think the cat is rejecting affection, when in reality, the cat is only rejecting pressure. The cat is not saying, "I do not love you." The cat is saying, "I need this to happen on terms that do not overwhelm me." If you want to build a stronger bond, start paying attention to the small signs. A tense tail, ears turning sideways, a quick lick of the lips, a ripple across the skin, a low warning sound, a head turning away from your hand. These are not dramatic reactions, but they are still communication. And when those signals are ignored again and again, some cats stop giving gentle warnings and move straight to avoidance. So the most loving thing you can do is often simpler than people expect. Stop a little earlier. Loosen your hold. Let your cat be the one who decides whether the moment continues. Because sometimes trust is built not in the moments when you hold on, but in the moments when you let go. Second, punishing your cat for behaviors you have not fully understood. This is where love can quietly turn into frustration. Your cat scratches the sofa, jumps onto the counter, or keeps returning to places you do not want them to be. And from a human point of view, it can feel stubborn, disrespectful, or even deliberate. So you raise your voice, you clap loudly, you spray water, you try to make the behavior stop. But cats do not interpret punishment the way people hope they will. They do not sit there thinking, "I was wrong, and now I understand the rule." What they often learn instead is something much sadder. They learn that being near you can suddenly lead to stress, confusion, or fear. The lesson is not always, "Do not scratch the sofa." Sometimes the lesson becomes, "Be careful around this person." That is why punishment can damage the relationship even when it seems to work in the moment. A cat may jump down from the counter when you yell, but that does not mean they understood your boundary in a meaningful way. It may only mean they were startled. And if the need behind the behavior is still there, the behavior usually comes back. Because most of the time, what people call bad behavior is really just normal cat behavior happening in an environment that does not give it a proper outlet. Scratching is not revenge. It helps your cat maintain their claws, stretch their body, and leave both visual and scent marks that make a space feel familiar. Climbing onto high surfaces is not always defiance. For many cats, height means safety, visibility, and control. Exploring forbidden corners is not your cat trying to annoy you. It is curiosity doing what curiosity naturally does. And that is the part many owners never get told. Your cat is not trying to challenge your authority. Your cat is trying to meet a need with the options available. So, when every natural instinct is answered with anger, the injury goes deeper than a single loud moment. The cat begins to feel that ordinary feline behavior leads to negative reactions. Over time, that can create tension, caution, and emotional distance. Not because your cat stopped loving you, but because they no longer feel fully at ease being themselves around you. A better question to ask is not, "How do I stop this behavior immediately?" A better question is, "What need is my cat trying to meet right now?" If your cat scratches the sofa, they may need a scratching post in that exact area, not on the other side of the house where it is less useful to them. If your cat jumps onto tables and counters, they may be asking for vertical space that actually belongs to them, like a cat tree, a shelf, or a safe window perch. If your cat keeps investigating the same places, they may need more novelty, more enrichment, or simply a space where their curiosity is not constantly treated like a problem. This does not mean your cat should be allowed to do anything they want. It means boundaries work better when they come with alternatives. Not just no, but here. Not just stop, but try this instead. And sometimes that small shift changes everything. Because the moment your cat feels guided instead of punished, the home begins to feel less like a place full of corrections and more like a place where their nature is understood. If you have already recognized yourself in at least one of these habits, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because the next mistake is one that many loving cat owners overlook completely. You may be giving your cat everything they need on the outside, while their inner world is slowly becoming smaller and emptier without you even noticing. Third, feeding your cat well, but giving them a life that is too empty. This is one of the easiest mistakes to make, because on the surface, everything looks fine. The food bowl is full, the cat stays indoors where it is safe, there are toys scattered around the room. From a human point of view, that can look like a good life. But for many cats, being well-fed is not the same as being deeply fulfilled. Cats are hunters by design. Even the gentlest house cat still carries the old rhythm of stalking, chasing, pouncing, and catching. That rhythm matters. It is not just about exercise. It is part of how a cat uses its mind, body, and instincts together. When that pattern disappears from daily life, something inside them can start to go quiet in the wrong way. This is why a cat can seem physically comfortable and still be emotionally undernourished. A lot of owners assume that because cats sleep so much, They do not need much stimulation, but rest only feels satisfying when it follows engagement. If a cat spends most of the day lying around simply because there is nothing meaningful to do, that is not always relaxation. Sometimes it is resignation. Sometimes it is boredom wearing the mask of calm. And boredom in cats does not always look dramatic. It can show up as sudden bursts of activity in the middle of the night. It can look like irritability, over-grooming, weight gain, or a dullness that slowly replaces curiosity. Some cats become louder. Some become clingier. Others seem to disappear into themselves. Different cats express that emptiness in different ways. That is why it can be so misleading. People often label the cat as lazy, moody, or strange, when the deeper truth is that the cat's inner world has become too small. A rich life for a cat does not have to mean expensive gadgets or endless entertainment. It means giving their instincts somewhere to go. A feather wand moving like prey. A toy that disappears behind furniture and reappears. A short game that lets them track, chase, and finally catch something. A food puzzle that makes them work with focus instead of just eating out of habit. What matters most is not constant activity. It is meaningful activity. Even 10 or 15 minutes of intentional play each day can change a cat's mood more than people expect. Especially if the play has a beginning, a build-up, and a satisfying end. Let them crouch. Let them focus. Let them miss once or twice. Let them win. And when the game is over, a small treat or meal can help complete that natural sequence of hunt, catch, and eat. Sometimes the cat you thought was difficult is actually just unstimulated. Sometimes the cat you thought had become distant is simply underengaged. And sometimes one of the kindest things you can do is not to pet them more, but to give them back a part of the life their instincts have been missing. Fourth, arranging your cat's basic needs around human convenience instead of feline comfort. This mistake is quieter than the others, which is exactly why it gets overlooked so often. You can be a loving, attentive owner and still create daily stress for your cat without realizing it. Not because you failed to care, but because you organize the home in a way that makes sense to you, not to the animal living inside it. Humans like things to look tidy. We like food in one neat area, water close by, and litter boxes tucked away where they are out of sight and out of the way. But cats do not experience a room as a clean layout. They experience it through comfort, vulnerability, escape routes, and sensory ease. So a litter box placed beside a loud machine may seem practical to you, but to your cat, it can feel unpredictable and unsafe. A box hidden in a cramped corner may look discreet, but if there is no easy way to step back out, your cat may feel trapped at the very moment they are most exposed. A water bowl placed right next to food may seem efficient, yet many cats naturally prefer a little distance between eating and drinking. And a bowl that is too deep or too narrow can make every meal subtly unpleasant, especially when their whiskers brush against the sides again and again. These details may sound small, but to a cat, small discomfort repeated every day does not stay small. That is what makes this kind of harm so easy to miss. Your cat may still use the litter box. They may still drink some water. They may still eat their food, but they may do all of it with hesitation, discomfort, or low-level stress that slowly becomes part of their normal routine. And when discomfort becomes routine, many owners stop seeing it at all. This is why some behavior problems are not really behavior problems. They are design problems. They are signs that the cat's daily life has been arranged according to human neatness instead of feline ease. A cat that avoids certain spots in the house may not be being picky. A cat that drinks too little may not simply be uninterested in water. A cat that seems guarded during ordinary routines may be responding to a setup that never fully lets them relax. The most helpful shift is to stop asking what looks best in the room and start asking what feels easiest to the cat. Is the litter box quiet and easy to reach? Can the cat enter and leave without feeling cornered? Are there several water points throughout the home? Does the bowl feel comfortable against the face? Does this space invite calm, or does it quietly create tension? Sometimes better care does not mean buying more. It means noticing more. And when you begin to see your home through your cat's experience, you may realize that comfort is not only about love or intention. Sometimes it is about placement. Sometimes it is about space. Sometimes it is about whether the simplest daily acts feel peaceful or stressful in a body that depends on the environment more than we think. Fifth, changing your cat's world too quickly and expecting them to be fine right away. To a human, many changes feel ordinary. A new bag of food, a different litter, a move to a new apartment, guests visiting for the weekend, another pet joining the home. These things may seem manageable, temporary, or even exciting, but to a cat, change is rarely just change. Cats build their sense of stability through what stays familiar. The scent of a blanket, the location of a bowl, the path they take through a room, the quiet pattern of a normal day. These details may look small to us, but to a cat, they are part of what makes life feel predictable and safe. So when too many of those anchors disappear at once, the cat does not simply think, "This is different now." The cat feels that the world no longer behaves the way it used to. That is why even positive changes can be deeply stressful. A bigger home may still feel overwhelming at first. A new pet may be friendly, but still feel like an intrusion. Guests who mean well may fill the room with noise, movement, and unfamiliar energy. A freshly cleaned space may smell pleasant to you, but if every familiar scent has been erased, your cat may feel like they no longer recognize their own territory. And this is where people often become unfair, without meaning to. They see the cat hiding, withdrawing, eating less, or acting strange, and they assume the cat is being dramatic. They think, "It has been 2 days already. Why are you still not over it?" But many cats do not resist change because they are stubborn. They struggle because they regulate themselves through familiarity. When familiarity disappears too fast, they lose the emotional landmarks that help them stay settled. This is why hiding after a major change is not necessarily rejection, sulking, or bad attitude. Sometimes it is the cat's way of making the world smaller so it feels survivable again. A corner under the bed, a closet shelf, a quiet room with one familiar blanket. These are not random hiding places. They are places where the nervous system can breathe. The kindest thing you can do during change is not to force confidence. It is to preserve continuity. Change food slowly instead of suddenly. Mix the new litter in step by step. Keep familiar objects nearby when moving to a new place. Leave your cat a quiet retreat when guests come over. If possible, let them keep a few stable routines while the rest of life shifts around them. What tires a cat is often not the change itself, but the speed of it. Not just the new thing, but the feeling that everything became new at once. And when you understand that, patience stops looking like doing nothing. It starts looking like protection. Because giving your cat time is not a passive act. It is one of the clearest ways to tell them the world may be changing, but you are still allowed to find your footing in it. Sixth, ignoring small changes because you assume your cat is just being difficult. This may be the quietest mistake of all, and in some ways, the saddest. By this point, we have talked about the things people do. Holding too long, punishing natural behavior, creating a life that looks comfortable but feels empty. setting up the home in ways that do not truly work for a cat, changing too much, too fast. But there is one more kind of harm that happens after all of that. It happens when the cat starts changing, and the human does not really see it. Maybe your cat sleeps more than usual. Maybe they stop coming to greet you at the door. Maybe they pull away from touch that they used to enjoy. Maybe they play less, respond less, or seem a little more irritated than before. None of these things may look dramatic on their own. That is exactly why they are so easy to dismiss. People are used to thinking of cats as independent, private, and a little unpredictable. So when a cat becomes quieter or more withdrawn, many owners tell themselves that this is just personality. Maybe the cat is moody. Maybe they are getting older. Maybe this is simply how cats are. But cats are often experts at hiding discomfort. They do not always announce pain. They do not always show stress in obvious ways. Very often, they reveal it by becoming slightly less like themselves. A little less curious, a little less social, a little less willing to engage with the world around them. And when those subtle shifts are missed over and over again, that is when the damage becomes long-term. Not because the owner does not love the cat, but because the cat keeps sending small signals and learning that no one responds until the problem becomes impossible to ignore. That is what makes this kind of neglect so heartbreaking. The cat may have tried to communicate long before anything looked serious, but their language was quiet, gradual, and easy to misunderstand. A cat rarely cries for help in a way that feels obvious to human ears. More often, they just reduce contact. They hesitate. They retreat. They conserve themselves. And if that pattern keeps being overlooked, some cats stop trying to communicate gently at all. They simply endure. So one of the most important things you can do as a cat owner is to notice who your cat normally is. Not just what they do in general, but what is normal for this cat. How often they play, how they rest, how they eat, how they respond to touch, how they move through the house. Because change only stands out when you truly know the baseline. If something shifts and stays shifted, pay attention. Think about both body and environment. Could this be health-related? Could something in the home be causing tension? Could your cat be reacting to pain, stress, boredom, fear, or a disruption you thought was minor? Do not wait for a loud reaction before you decide something matters. By the time a cat is forcing you to notice, they may have been uncomfortable for much longer than you realized. And that leads to the most important truth in this entire video. The things that hurt cats most deeply are not always cruel acts. Sometimes they are small moments repeated so often that they become the shape of everyday life. An embrace that lasts too long. Anger directed at instinct. A life with too little meaning in it. A home that works better for people than for paws. Changes that come too fast. Signals that go unanswered. When you begin to see those moments through your cat's eyes, love starts to change. It becomes less about doing more, and more about understanding better. Less about affection on your terms, and more about making room for what your cat is actually feeling. So after hearing all 6 of these, are you still sure you have never hurt your cat without realizing it? If this made you think differently about the cat in your home, subscribe to the channel and share your story in the comments. Because sometimes the most beautiful kind of love begins with the moment you finally understand what the other side has been trying to say all along.